I had potatoes planted in this part of the garden last year, and as you can see, obviously I didn't manage to harvest all of them because these are all rogue potatoes that are growing. So I thought I'd try and leave them, but unfortunately I do need the space. So they're all going to have to come out, and I will be planting a fresh set of potatoes in my potato planters over by the asparagus bed. One of my neighbours kindly donated a little bowl full of potatoes so that I can grow some potatoes this year. I wasn't actually going to bother, mostly on account of the fact that the amount of compost that I was able to access was somewhat limited, but I was delighted to take possession last week of a 0.8 cubic metre dumpy bag of compost from Crappers, which was hailed with great jubilation when it arrived. So now I have enough compost, I will be able to plant some potatoes. Nigel also kindly gave me some onion sets, which I hadn't planned on growing, so I've had to revise my planting plan to include the onion sets that he's given me, which means that my raised beds are going to be quite allium-ish this year, which kind of limits the amount of alliums I'll be able to do next year, because I've already got 1.5 raised beds of garlic. I grew alliums in one of the other beds last year, and if I'm going to be planting leeks and onions this year, then I'm probably going to use up rather more of my allocated space than I'd planned. However, it does look like my parsnips are not going to germinate, which is probably going to give me almost an entire bed of space that I can then utilise for something else. So I will be planting my potatoes in these potato sacks. As you can see, I've used these ones before. I'll be putting about, I don't know, maybe 4 inches of compost in the bottom of each one, popping a potato, probably 3 or 4 on the top of the layer of compost, and then covering with another 6 to 8 inches probably of compost, and then I'll keep topping it up as I start seeing the little shoots coming through, because the longer the stalk is of the potato plant itself, the more potatoes I should get on my potatoes. These are the ones that Nigel gave me, just those little ones. You can see that they have started to chit. You can see that little mark there, and that's chit with a CH, by the way. And what that is that's the little root that comes out before the potato actually starts growing. These are a couple that I have chitted myself. This is the potato planters that I use. I've got a couple of new ones in there if I run out. And here are the onion sets that Nigel gave me. I need to plant these onion sets as soon as possible, really, and I'll do that later on in one of the beds that is ready for it. You plant them that way around, you make a little hole, you pop them in and you bury them in so that just the very tips of them are showing, and then you leave them, and then they grow into big onions. I'm planning on planting the potatoes over here next to what I hope will be the asparagus bed. We do have some asparagus growing there, but it doesn't seem to be all that good at the moment. There's only one line coming up. This is the 5th or 6th year we've had it, and every year we say we might just get rid of it and plant something else there, but each year we live in hope. This is the potato patch that I have used before, just here, and those are actually bags of sand that came out from underneath Drew and Sarah's patio that I've been gradually using both for the chickens, for dust bath, and also in the garden. One of the other things I'm going to do today is to rescue the all the compost from the big dumpy bag that I got from Crappers, and I'm going to bring it down here past my compost bins, and I've put some newspaper, I've put some cardboard in the bottom of this compost bin, ready to receive all the compost that I'm going to be moving from the front drive in the big dumpy bag, and then it'll be there ready for me to use wherever I need it. These are our 3 compost bins. John built these for me. So in here would be this year's compost. Quite a bit of the chicken stuff goes in there. That is last year's compost, which I turned out from this bin here into this one, and then I've covered over with cardboard, which will gradually rot down, but in there is last year's compost. And then here will be the compost that I'll be using from crappers. Okay, so I use these potato bags because they've got handles on the sides, so you can move them when they're in position. They've got drainage holes around the bottom, and drainage holes actually in the base of them as well. So you put maybe 3 inches, 2-3 inches of compost in the bottom. You lay 3 or 4 seed potatoes on that surface, top it up with some more compost, water it well, pretty much keep it well watered, and you will get potatoes. I love doing potatoes this way because when you unearth them, it's very much like buried treasure, and there's nothing like a really good fresh homegrown potato. The great things about these is that it's got these little handles on. So what I am going to do is, once I've planted this one up, I'm going to leave it on our friend's doorstep, because Drew and Sarah really should be growing their own potatoes as well. That's the one for Drew and Sarah, and then I've got my other ones over here next to the asparagus bed. Since I'm not sure how fertile the new compost is that I've got, I decided to add a handful of fish blood and bone meal to the top of each of these planters, just in the top sort of inch or so, and I've just worked it through with my fingers, so when I water it, it should hopefully sink down and all the goodness should go into the potatoes and make them grow really well.